What is good? If you kept up with my community tab, you should have seen me discuss the idea of me kickstarting a tournament. Well, lo and behold, this is it. What size is the roster? How will this work? What do you do to get in? That and more will all be answered soon. Soon, as in right now. They will be answered in this video. Yeah, this will be a longer video, but I promise watching it will be worth it if you're intending to try and get in. If you're not planning to compete but still want to get a gist of what's going on, I think you should still watch as well. I don't want to just say this tournament or my tourney the whole time. The show, it needs a name, right? So here's the name for the show. Boom! The Animator Show, or TAS for short. It's a silly name, but I think you'll get the job done. Anyway, let's continue. The prize of TAS. It's what I've been hyping up and also what made some people interested. Now, what's the final prize? $400. It's what I said in the last community post about the prize amount, and I think I'll be sticking true to it. But if the roster really impresses me, I might boost it up a bit. Just a bit. Now, please have an idea of how you'd like to receive the money, because not everyone has Cash App, for example, and I understand that. If you'd like to be paid by a gift card or something akin to that manner, please let me know. Now the question is, how many people will be fighting for the 400? About 32 people. Now, that means there'll be 5 rounds down the finale. And, as much as I'd like to make a huge roster, there's no way for me to do that nowadays without either having a super slow round 1 or letting in practically everybody, regardless if they're really not that good at all. Due to this amount, there's not going to be any MVP system, but, that's just the norm by now, really. I might do a fun poll every round based on who would be the MVP, but if I do, it won't hold any impact at all. I don't want to be like a. Now back to the competitors. They'll all be placed on a wheel, and that wheel will decide how the matchups happen. You're free to let me know matches you absolutely do not want, matches that are already happening, or rematches that are far too soon. I'll disregard matchups that apply to that, and I will roll them again if they get spun. Some of you will have to suck up a few matches though. I won't just ban any match you're slightly bored by. Now, what will the episodes be like? This will be a bit of a difficult question to stay 100% honest on, because I myself don't really have the format perfected as of recording this. It might come off as a bit lazy, but with how long round 1s can take, I think I'll get it down by then. For now, here's my current thought process. I really want to make episodes as entertaining as they can be, while still being informative and interesting to hear. Categories and the scores they get will be shown off one by one from person to person, with explanations before the next one is shown. These explanations will have a lot of cool visuals that will cut to specific parts that show what I'm talking about, and I'll make them the most fun to watch as I can. As you can tell, the winner won't be revealed immediately like in WC, it'll be by the end of the scoring. I'd really like to have people who watch the entire videos, and I'm sure there are so many people who just watch WC, go to the winner reveal, then leave the video because they don't really care for the analysis segments. Nothing's stopping you from doing that here, but I'll just like to make a more immersive experience that leaves more suspense. With that, judging docs won't be posted on their own for the same reason. Now, I've alluded to categories. Let's get into them. These all will be out of 20 besides the very last category, and due to that, there's no decimal scores. I think 20 points are a wide enough margin to justify never doing those. Lyrics. I have an award in this, so I should know the ins and outs of them pretty well. This is what I'll be considering for the lyrics category. Let's start with the basics. Roasting and writing are two different things, and let's not act like they aren't. They will both be major parts of this category. Even if you have the best writing, throwing out the most cool sounding lyrics, but then you throw some stupid line about your fucking opponent like in Pineapple on Pizza. That's just not a very hard lyric, is it? And the same goes vice versa. You can have the craziest roast about your opponent eating fucking shit on the floor, but if you throw it out like, you ate poop, I wouldn't call that a good line. A good line is something hard-hitting, but with clever or just flat out good enough writing to make it more hard-hitting. Now, some more unrecognized stuff that I'll be pouring attention into. Rhyming. Now, these aren't going to be deducting you too much if you're not amazing at them, but do try to experiment more and more diverse rhyming. It can help not only your writing, but your flow if you have some really, really cool sounding rhymes. Now, when I say this, I'm not saying to go all lyrical, miracle, spiritual. Not at all. Please don't. However, I am saying that you shouldn't just stick to rhyming only cat and bat. Try some more complex stuff. However, don't try too hard on this if you just don't have it in you. It won't be a requirement at all. And they won't hurt you unless you're just fucking egregious, you know? They just might help is all. If you don't really know the terms slant rhyme or internal rhyme, try to check them out and try to implement them into your writing. I think they're very fun. Flow. This may be a bit confusing and why it's in lyrics. It's gonna be its own category, of course, but here's how it can affect lyrics. Let's say you have a line that's super rushed or maybe a bit dragged out. That's typically due to an amount of syllables in your words being too many or too little. So while this would hurt flow, it would also more than likely hurt lyrics. This would show that your writing is flawed in a way that you can't really write them well into a consistent flow. If you don't have this issue at all, don't even think about this section of lyrics. This will only hurt a score, not improve it. Originality. This can be factored into the writing section of roast and writing, but this seems to be an issue that people, even with good writing and roast, can sometimes tend to have. Let's say we have a beatbox against, for example, Shadow. I doubt he would join this tournament, but he's just an example in my head. They write crazy, unique bars about him not being able to tell orange from red, or how Grape made gay jokes about him, or him crying to a JT beatbox. Yes, amazing! Oh, MB use those. Be creative. Now, there's plenty of slack to be given. Maybe you're against someone who barely has anything on them, so you're just sort of stuck having to use roast from other people. Or maybe you just use a couple because you have a good line idea which uses the same material. I think that's perfectly fine. Just don't copy lines verbatim and don't make your entire solo be material already iconically used by someone else. It just shows that you didn't do your research. Am I thinking of someone when I'm talking about this? Maybe. Now here's the whole next category, flow. Flow is a really tricky category to judge, but I believe I can gather what makes a good flow category and things I should look out for, whether they be positive, negative, or just something good to know. Singing versus rapping. I'd be lying if I said I saw this be brought up much, but I saw a critique on WC that did really have me thinking, and shout out to Foxy for bringing it up at all. Which is a more impressive flow to pull off? A more melodic singing one, or a fast-paced rapping one? On paper, you'd probably say rapping. Honestly, I would agree due to the community's usage of both. Now, here's a different question. Which is a more impressive flow to create? Tricky. You may be asking the difference, and here's what I say. I think copying a flow from a rap song, of course varying on the flow of it, is more difficult and impressive than copying a flow from a melodic song. That should not be a question at all. Rap could be a tongue twister for most to do, while melodies are meant to be more open and easy to do and just, sing along to. Now, creating your own flow, I think this one's relatively even. Rapping, while harder to perform, is definitely a bit easier to think of flows for in the top of the head. Now, this is just my opinion, but just try thinking of an original melody that succeeds at what a melody should do. What it should do is be catchy. It may just be the style that I go for, but I find that much more difficult than an original rap flow. That's not saying a rap flow can't be that. It absolutely can. But I think it's just a bit harder to do melodically. So here's a summary. I think using the same flow as your remix is more impressive when it's rapping for sure. But making your own flow, I would argue, is a bit harder to do for melodies. But this should really be stated. All of this does not mean immediately go for original melodic flows. When I say it's more impressive, I mean when comparing the peaks of both. If you do an original melodic flow but it's just a bit slow, boring, or not super unique, I don't think it'll score much different from just copying a different melodic song with a more interesting flow. Now, onto a related portion. Originality. I think you can gather the gist of this from the previous part. Original flows will perform best assuming they're done well. However, do not be afraid of using flows from your remix. It's less suggested, but for rap remixes at least, you can do it quite well. Melodic? It depends. What makes flow impressive? Here's my view personally. Some people interpret faster as better. I say absolutely not. This isn't saying a faster flow isn't good, but it's not what makes a flow good. If it was, we would be praising fucking Dax or Tom McDonald to be on the Mount Rushmore of rappers. A good flow is smooth, memorable, or catchy. That's how I feel. There's another belief that flow should be more hard to perform to be on the higher end. I think that in this setting, sure, it can impact it. However, I think the much more impressive aspect of flow is coming up with a good one at all. This doesn't really apply for copied flows, but for original flows, it's what I truly think and would prioritize. Subjectivity. This is impossible to avoid for this category. There's stuff you can objectively say about this category to negate it, whether it be rushed or dragged out flow, as mentioned in lyrics, or just being flat out offbeat. However, there's bound to be flows that have none of those issues, but just aren't my cup of tea. This doesn't mean I won't score it well, but that means I more than likely won't give it a super duper humongous high score. This also doesn't mean that I have to hate the flow. I could just find it less impressive than most do. I can also find a flow way more impressive than others do. I do not think this will come into play much at all, but I believe this should be noticed regardless. Assuming the series actually reaches the end, I'm sure this will happen at least once. Vocals. This will be a way shorter category to explain. You know what makes vocals good and what makes them bad. Singing and rapping. Unlike flow, I do not think either have an advantage in either way. People specialize in one or the other, and who am I to force them to do the other? I would know. I cannot sing at all. Both of them will get full credit respectfully no matter which they prioritize. Bonus if you do good at both of them. Mixing. You could have the best vocals in the world, but if it's mixed terribly, it won't be very good at all. It can also highly improve your vocals, whether they be great harmonizing, super good effects, whatever it may be. I'm sure you get the idea. Your natural voice. I won't deny it. Some people suffer from it due to their voice, which they have really no control over. This feels really mean to deduct points over a voice that I find a bit annoying, so if there's really nothing wrong with your performance, but you have a bit of an annoying voice, there's no deduction over that. This feels really weird to bring up, but you would be surprised how many times I've seen people bring up disliking a solo just because of a person's voice. I'm frankly guilty of it myself. Beatboxing. I would be lying if I said I was an expert at this. I think I'm good at it purely in the community standards. I know a bit of sounds, but I'm no genius in it. I believe though that I've picked up enough from WC to know how to judge this efficiently. Usage. Beatboxing on paper, you would just judge off sounds and whether or not it's offbeat. And you'd be right, but there's a bit more. Usage is whether or not these sounds fit the solo. I think we can agree a lot of solos sound better without the beatboxing, and that's typically due to just poor usage. Good usage makes the sounds enhance the beat rather than just being some stupid sounding mouth noises over an instrumental, whether that be matching the melody of the beat with your beatboxing, enhancing the drums of the song with your beatboxing, or just going Michal level and making a whole nother beat with your beatboxing. These are all examples of great usage. Mixing. Mixing applies here as well. It works basically the same to the mixing section in vocals. It can really enhance or really hurt your beatboxing. Mixing that can help it can be a very punchy effect to go with your drums, or using different effects for different sounds in a way that helps. Things that can hurt it could be beatboxing that's far too loud, beatboxing with a lot of white noise in the background, or just most simple of all, maybe a bad preset. By knowledge. As said at the beginning of this section, I'm no master at this, not at all. I've got a good grasp of what makes a good category and everything but the sound set. I cannot identify sounds that well at all. This is why I will be getting some help from my pal Penguin Pone when identifying sounds. I don't plan for much help when it comes to the other categories, but this is one I'll be getting one for no matter what, because I think my judging in this category would just fall completely flat as a result. I'd either completely downplay something that's insane or hype up something that ain't all that. Other. The other category from WC will be in this tourney as well. I think this was a really good addition for stuff that's super impressive but doesn't quite fit in the main categories. Whether it be impressive mixing on the instrumental, adding your very own instruments, or even just a cameo. That's obviously not all you can do for this category, but there's some examples. This category can also deduct you. It could be an issue of the entire solo's volume, a bad cameo, or a beatbox just not being finished. Once again, not everything that can happen, but there are examples. Abusing this category is the meta, and I recommend you do it if you have a good idea that you can realistically do and pull off good. You can get any amount of points here, but I'll try and keep them reasonable enough for how impressive the additions actually are. Please let me know whenever you do something that could fit here, and please explain the process of it. Now onto some more basic information about the scoring. Cameos are not counting towards the actual scores besides the other category because these are your beatboxes. Only your part should matter. Tier placements will be the same as in WC because I think they're a fairly accurate basis. If you're not familiar with them, here they are on the screen. Judging will be done by myself and it'll take place over a few days because I would like to look over everything well. I don't want to miss anything for either contestant, and I really do hope to give the most accurate scores possible. If you're a competitor and your opponent has some lines you really want to bring to my attention, well, let me know. I could end up not knowing a line is false because there's just so much I can know about every single community member. How will deadlines work? These will be 45 days each, and if you fail to complete by then, you get a 3-point deduction. Same goes if you get an extension with no real reason beyond I was lazy or motivation. Trust me, I do get you. I've had that reason for taking OL too, but I can admit that's not a very good one. If you do have a good reason, you can get one with no deduction. On screen are some good reasons for an extension. If you still need another one, you get 3 points off no matter what. And if you need a third extension, you're just out, man. Lastly, I think it's very important to know the rules. Break any of them, and it'll vary from a deduction to a ban from the tournament depending on how bad the scenario is. No leaking solos unless it's your very own. No preset boundary should be broken. For example, if someone tells you to not mention their dating history or something, and then you go ahead and mention their dating history, that would be breaking this rule. No personal information should be used. This should really be a given. It makes two worlds collide in a way that really shouldn't because so many people love their privacy, so it would just be great if you held off on that. And the final one, have decency. I like people going hard on roast, but there's a line that if crossed is just messed up and has no excuse. Examples consist of mentioning any sort of personal losses, serious situations happening to your opponent, suicidal thoughts. I'm sure you can imagine. If I have to tell you to not do any of that in order for you to refrain from it, you should not be here at all. Alright, now we're approaching the end of this video. I really hope you watched the whole thing and didn't just skip here or something. I really would like TAS to go well, and I hope this video entices you to want to join. The sign up form will be in the description, and it'll contain questions to prove if you're really you, and then that's it. If you're fairly unknown, at least to me, I highly suggest you fill the space showing your best beatbox or something like a cover that proves you're worthy enough to join. Thank you so much for watching. See you sometime next week when the server opens up and matchups are revealed.